And the Malaysian government is in the midst of preparing coronavirus guidelines based on color-coded zones with COVID-19. Let's see what that means. Let's have Ruby Tinawin for the news and more. Ruby?
Yes, Alma, hi.
Hi, Ruby.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, and good to see you. What are your
Yes,
updates
thank
for
you.
us, Ruby?
All right, yes. Right now, the Malaysian government is in the midst of preparing a guideline based on color-coded zone with COVID-19. So basically, they've broken up the categories into 4 different codes, color codes. 1, green, those without any cases at all. Yellow, those areas that has recorded 1 to 20 cases. Orange, 21 to 40, red, 40 cases and above. So in this SOP, they will determine whether it would be wise for the people from the green zone, which is the clear zone, to actually move from one area to another, because the worry that the color will change to red is still there, especially once the lockdown is lifted, right? This is a standard operating procedure on matters that would be tabled in the Special Cabinet Committee tomorrow by the National Security Council and Home Ministry. So it is expected that the SOP will also cover aspects on post-movement control order. Everyone is anticipating the announcement that will be made on Friday, because that would determine whether Malaysia will have an extended lockdown, because from the news before, the last day of our extended lockdown is until April 14. Now, the SOP, according to the Health Ministry, is needed to ensure that what happened in certain countries which had lifted their restriction order does not happen in Malaysia. Because now, out of nearly 4,000 COVID-19 cases in the country, there's many new clusters that are being detected. However, 69 cases, luckily only 69, identified by the Health Ministry, they tag it as sporadic, which means these are cases where the source of infection cannot be detected. They cannot trace it. But however, all other cases, they're able to detect which cluster they belong. So in also related to the lockdown, as you know, last Friday, Singapore government has announced their circuit breaker measure. This is the heightened social distancing, and the lockdown is expected to run for a month. Now, there are many Malaysians working in Singapore. Actually, as of the data that I have, there are at least 45,000 Malaysians currently working in Singapore. Now, the suggestion from the Health Ministry is those Malaysians who are in Singapore who wants to return home during the circuit breaker measures should consider remaining in Singapore for another 2 weeks. Now, because at this moment they are still discussing with the Singapore government on the way forward for these workers. Now, he added that those who wants to return to Malaysia, they will still need to be screened, whether or not they have the COVID-19 symptoms at the checkpoints. And if they are found to have symptoms, necessary actions will be taken, right? So the problem right now is if the 45,000 Malaysians will be coming back to Malaysia at the sudden increase in number, there will be the Johor Chief Minister said in one of his interview that they will not be able to handle the return of thousands of Malaysians at once. Yeah, so because Johor is the border between Singapore and Malaysia. So the point there is they are telling the Malaysians stay there for another 2 weeks. You don't need to return immediately. We are working with the Singapore government on this. So there was an initial agreement, and they are still working on other necessary things that they can work with them. Now, with the existing MCO, there are a few problems that are on the rise over here in this country. Of course, one of that, which I reported before, scammers are on the rise and even increasing. Not only those smuggling of illegal cigarettes, but nowadays a new wave of scammers preying online banking customers is on the rise here in Malaysia because nowadays as social distancing is being implemented, a lot of transactions are done online, and therefore there have been reports of complaints lodged by different individuals saying that they were scammed, monies were taken from their bank accounts, and many more. So experts said that people should refrain from opening suspicious texts or any links attached to their emails. He also said people should avoid accessing public Wi-Fi or encourage them to use the personal hotspots instead, especially if they're dealing with all these sensitive transactions where personal information is involved. Also, domestic violence is also on the rise. According to Women's Center for Change Program Director Karen Lai, she said domestic violence was on the rise during the pandemic due to mounting economic, social, and psychological pressure on families and communities. And they anticipate that the numbers will go up in the coming weeks. This is a cause of concern for now. Now, there's also a point here where they said before the MCO, the survivor of gender-based violence could get help from their neighbors, from relatives, from doctors, and even a postman who deliver some mails to them. But with the MCO, outside contact is minimized for good reasons, of course. However, it does take away the fact that survivors are at greater risk now of abuse and violence. So they said they become more vulnerable to different set of health issues, depressions, that impacts their immune system. So which at this point in time needs to be really guarded, making sure that one's immune system is good. So not being able to seek help immediately could potentially lead to fatal consequences. And of course, the most obvious, the result of lockdown where only essential services can operate, bosses are finding ways, or those company owners are finding ways how they can actually negotiate with the workers on various options, like telling them to take unpaid leave during this movement control order. Some even discuss with the workers on temporary pay cut. And of course, there are other bosses that also ask their employees, especially those who are earning high salary, if they could take a smaller paycheck in exchange of companies' share. Now, many initiatives are being discussed. The stimulus package also tried to cover that. But again, the bottom line is those employers who talk to their employees, they are being encouraged that make sure this is still within the based on employment laws. Whatever is being negotiated, whatever option is being provided, make sure that it is still within the employment law that is being observed here in Malaysia. Now, also Malaysia, because sooner or later, there's a high hope that the lockdown will be lifted, and the Prime Minister office, headed by Datuk Seri Mustafa Mohamad, said it was crucial for the government to start planning for some economic sectors to get back on their feet. Right? So he said the health ministry and other ministries would be consulted on how businesses could resume so that the economy could be revived and Malaysia could start to catch up again. But he said the effort must also be taken to prevent a resurgence of COVID-19. Now, he cited an example like examples of Hong Kong and Singapore, which now had to face a fresh wave of COVID-19 infections as major nations, and they were still struggling to fight the virus. So he said the Economic Action Council Secretariat had started work to prepare for economic recovery post-COVID-19. So he said there will be consultation, which also have started, talking to various stakeholders, including SMEs, different business associations, economists, the think tanks, academics, individuals, and investors, both in foreign and local places, to prepare a medium-term plan to review the Malaysian economy. So he also said it would become more important as people would be very health conscious to also focus on healthcare, right? Underlining the fact that there's an aging population, and they want to preserve higher life expectancy as well. So the government acknowledged that there would be different dynamics of rebound, which would see different types of businesses recovering at different paces. He said he's aware that the stimulus package the government has provided may not please everyone. However, the majority of Malaysians, he believed, acknowledge that the government has done its best. So all the three packages, which was announced on different dates, February 27, March 27, April 6, amounted to a total of 260 billion ringgit, with direct government injection increasing further to additional 25 to 35 billion ringgit.
Ruby?
Alma?
Yes. What would you say is the biggest concern of workers right now during this crisis?
Over here in Malaysia, there's a lot of people because a very big percentage are SMEs, so they cannot operate. A lot of people do not have jobs. So you see, when the announcement was made that they can apply for some financial support, there's a long queue straight away at those government sectors for people applying for financial assistance. Mm-hmm. And however, the sad news is that, you know, all the online scam, online problems are beginning to surface. Because over here, you know, there's a wide use of online banking. So even application for such financial aid is going through the online account, online transaction. Alma?
Okay, online, speaking of online, is there a digital divide, a gap in internet access over there in Malaysia?
We used to have that, but nowadays we can say that Malaysia has actually done a lot, and as compared to, may not be perfect because there are still places, especially those remote places that you know, the technology is still not that good. But generally speaking, the telecom companies make it possible for everyone to have access to it. Internet service provider, probably 10 years ago, there's only one. Now there are multiple service providers that you can find in Malaysia. Alma?
And also, worldwide, educational institutions have restored to online classes to ensure students continue their studying at home. Is that the same trend over there in Malaysia?
Yes, Alma, yes. From the tertiary education side, universities have shifted from face-to-face to purely online. In fact, the discussion nowadays, the Ministry of Education here is to work on alternate assessment because following our academic calendar, there are many programs or courses that is about to sit for the final exam. So the lack of face-to-face will be replaced by that alternate assessment. So all education sectors, I mean all education institutions here are working towards that. So the Ministry of Education together with the Malaysian Quality Assurance Agency working hand in hand to come up with that guideline. how academics should prepare all this, what they call alternate assessment. Alma?
All right. Thank you very much for your update, Ruby. Always good to hear from you. Thank you so much. Keep safe, stay home, stay healthy as well.
Yes, thank you. You too. From EBC Malaysia Bureau, this is Ruby Tinawin. We live in interesting times.